Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Caroline. Welcome to another episode of CO Pod. Today, we're joined by Kurt and Reid Bangert of Bangert. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah,
Doing
of
awesome.
course.
Thanks, Caroline.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you guys.
Hey, we're excited to be here. Tell you the truth, love what you guys are doing.
Awesome. So let's get into it. Tell me a little bit more about you guys. When did you get into this industry? Why did you get into this industry? Give me the full Spark Notes version.
You bet. So I'll take that one on. So we started the company 41 years ago, and we've been involved with construction for 37 of those years. Why did we get into it? We just had customers that had construction companies asking us for software. So what else were we to do? So we ended up finding and partnering with a company called Timberline back then, now Sage, and it's been full bar ahead since then. So we really become construction specialists over all these years. That's the only industry that we address, and we love doing it. We love contractors. It's just and we have fun doing it. So what's not to like?
Yeah, you guys you've been around for so long that you've definitely been able to see, the many evolutions that the construction industry has gone through, which has been probably a lot for those 40 years, right?
Oh yeah, quite a lot actually. It's when we first got started, you know things like hard drives, they were 5 megabytes, 10 megabytes. Well, that's a third of a photo on your phone today. So technology has changed. The price of these things has dropped dramatically over time. It seems expensive, but relative to what you would have spent 30 years ago to get the same, if you could have done it, would have is astronomically different. So it's always fun to see that. We like to think we're on the leading edge of that change. We're pushing the change, and that's also been true of our company for a long, long time. And we're just always looking for what's coming next and how do we best make that work for our customers.
Awesome. And like when you guys started, it was really before the big dot-com boom, the big technology, you know,
Oh yeah.
infiltration of everything. Were you guys the only ones doing what you do?
Then no, there were certainly other folks and competitors and so forth out there, but yeah, it was a totally different world. There were no cell phones. Back then, fax machines were like the most critical machine in a construction company. We had customers that still use dial phones, which a lot of you won't really know what I mean by that. So, there's the change in the tech and use in our customers and in our own business. It's just absolutely dramatic. And I mean, I think it was probably 91 or 92 before I had a cell phone, and it came in a bag. So I will say the transmitters in those bag phones were way more powerful than what we have today. But that's I don't want to sound like an old man griping about transmitter power.
Yeah, and for anyone in our audience who doesn't know what Bangert is and what you guys do you guys mind giving a brief overview just to catch everyone up who's not as cool as we are and know everything about y'all?
We are a Sage Intact partner, and we specialize in the construction industry. Our entire team has deep knowledge of construction and, better yet, how to make software work exceptionally well in a construction business. So, that's really the core of what we do. And it's really been the core of what we do now for the last 37 years. So we've seen all kinds of different scenarios. We've worked with all types and sizes of construction companies. We have solutions for construction problems. In other words, we have very, when somebody talks to us, we not only understand what they're telling us, but they understand our answer. So that specialization really makes a big difference in the customer's experience overall. So, and that's one of the reasons why, we work with partners like Lumber, for instance, who's a very specific, in their case, a construction specific payroll system, which we happen to love. But, we're not trying to adapt other products to construction. We take construction products, we make them work in construction companies.
That's awesome. Let's transition a little bit more to talk about you guys. So, it takes a special type of person to be in the positions that you guys are in and really, being at the forefront of change and really being the ones that are behind that change and making those decisions. How did you get the confidence and experience to get where you guys are today?
Um, Blood, sweat, and tears.
That's the
you
only
know,
acceptable answer.
uh, well, in the early days, it was just a lot, it was a general familiarity with business and construction, and then a lot of hard work. Today, we're in a much different situation. We select people to join our team based on their experience, their knowledge base, and probably most importantly, their cultural fit here. One of the things here in the last 3 years or so, we've made some very dramatic changes, and I think I can safely say we pioneer a few things in this industry, which I'd like Reid to kind of talk about. But one of part of the result of that has been a real culture change to the positive. And what we see in our company is when we have happy people, we have happy customers. So our focus is really on how do we uh, continue to build that kind of culture, and how do we, if we need a new team member, our first priority is to make sure that they fit into our current culture and that they're, everybody's going to get along and enjoy each other. So to us, that's a primary thing. So when we, look for new staff, we're looking for cultural fit number one, and then their knowledge number two. And when we have those two things, it's consistently works out really, really well.
That's definitely one of the things we've been seeing in this industry is it's really tough to, first of all, get this talent, but then keep them and keep them motivated. What do you guys do to help with that?
Yeah, I mean, we focused on our internal process really and our external process. So, how we deliver services to customers is completely different to how everybody else in the industry does it. Um, we have systemized a lot of the routine and the mundane education aspects, and we put our customers through a consistent process time and time again. It gives us a 98% success rate. And we've been able to cut the cost of construction ERP implementation by, I think, 70%. And we've cut the time of implementation by 50%. So the reality is that we've walked our own walk. We've utilized technology in a way to get our people ahead and to get our customers ahead, and that's been incredibly successful. And it's led to things like a 4-day work week. So for a good chunk of the year, we all rotate 4 days a week, and that gives everybody more work-life balance, and ultimately just leads to a better culture all around.
Well, I love a 4-day work week. That sounds
Oh,
amazing.
yeah.
Let's implement that over here too. That sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that we've got to be thinking of ways in which we, as somebody who's in a position to run operations for a business, you want to work yourself into some sense of flexibility. I think if you're an owner of a company like Kurt is, he wants to work himself into a sense of flexibility, and so why wouldn't we want that for employees too? So I think that's the real driver behind that. And then ultimately, we let the employees come up with the policy. We said, hey, we'd like to do a 4-day work week initiative. What do you guys think it should be?
Always getting that feedback I find is always so helpful because sometimes, we have all these great big ideas and then, running them by someone else, it's not such a great big idea. So always having that feedback is amazing. And I love that you guys, really include your employees and your staff and all that decision making. I think that's so important.
There's some other elements which typically in these types of businesses like ours, the people that provide professional services, typically those services are billed by the hour or some form of it. There's people that sell what I call quote unquote subscriptions or metered subscriptions that say, okay, for this much a month, you get these many hours. The problem with that's just a different way of billing by the hour. All right. Consultants are often paid a base salary plus, um, if they meet their threshold, if they bill a certain number of hours over that, they get paid an incentive pay on top of it. So the problem with that is, first of all, hourly billing or metered subscriptions are not in line with the customer's interest. So our first objective is let's be 100% consistently in line with the customer's interest. What do we need to do that? Well, we need to get rid of the billed hour, number one. And number two, they need to know what this is going to cost up front, period, without any equivocation. But to do that successfully, we also have to look internally and say, okay, we need to remove all these incentive pays because it's not fair to make an employee prove that they're worth their salary every pay period. Okay, if you're using an incentive pay, essentially what you're saying to an employee is, you're worth this much only if you prove it to me by billing hours. Okay, so that's inherently also against the customer's interest because you now have a consultant that they need to bill hours to make the kind of income that they need to make to pay their bills and send their kids to college and all those kind of things. So they're gonna work that system, and I don't mean to imply that there's some something sketchy going on because that's really not it. The problem is the system. The problem is the comp plan. The problem is the way it's getting billed. And that's not made by that individual, but they're forced into that. So what we did is we removed all incentive pays, everything, because we said, let's pay you what you're worth, which meant a dramatic rise in base salary. Well, think about that from an individual standpoint. Now I don't have to worry about how much I build. I don't have to worry if I have a full week next week to make sure that I'm, covering my nut, all that kind of stuff. I now can relax. I can now be a part of a team because the other issue with that incentive pay plan is that it drives people to work for themselves when in reality, we need a team. A team will make us all successful. A bunch of individual players, not going to work.
I've seen that time and time again. You're so worried about, yourself. And as humans, of
Sure.
course, we worry about ourselves. But really, when we start to see teamwork, is when we start to see progression and success and everything. It
Right.
all comes down to the team.
And if you're truly working as a team, it's more fun. I mean, that's all this got started was the question was, is anybody having any fun? The answer was no. so so we needed to change that.
You always want to enjoy what you're doing. That's why I love having this job. I enjoy it.
Absolutely.
So that's
Yeah.
why we all are where we are, right?
It is, but there will come a time when we find ourselves in a place we don't want to be, and it's up to us to take action to change that. So, and that's not always easy. So, as Reid was saying, the other thing we did was, let's take a drink of our own Kool-Aid, which for years and years we've been telling customers they should, use software to make their people happier, make their customers happier, be more efficient, be more profitable, and all that. And then if you looked inside our own company, you'd find that, maybe we're not taking our own medicine. So we did a huge initiative to build what we call the Bangert deployment system, and so we leverage technology now to relieve our staff to provide a better experience for our customers and a more consistent experience, and one where we can say, here's how much your software implementation is going to cost, guaranteed. You will never spend a penny more than that.
That's awesome. Let's switch gears a little bit and let's think back to when you guys first started. What is something that you know today that you wish you knew back then?
Surprisingly, we are today more like what we were when we started than the in between time. When we first started, yeah, when we first started, a customer would buy a system from us and they were quoted a single price and they got everything for that price. We departed from that and went to quote unquote the industry, best practices by moving, here's your software price, here's an estimate of your services, but we're going to bill you by the hour. Embarrassingly enough, we were in that model for a long, long time. So we're more today like we were when we started. And which may be a little bit of a surprise. I mean, our technical tools and all that have advanced greatly, as we discussed, but from a philosophical standpoint, we're much more like the way we started way back then than we were, between 1989 and 2019.
I want to talk about that shift. Why and how did you guys know how to, shift back to that original model? Or however you had it, how did you know that it was time to make a change?
I'll let Reid take that one on because he was in the heart of the battle on that.
Misery is what I mean, the reality is we had unhappy customers. We had customers that were exceedingly going over budget by 30%, 40%, 50% on what they were estimated. We were giving away more hours than we were billing out, and our system was broken. I mean, the build hour, the project fee, change orders, one-to-one consulting was completely dead and completely broken. There's a good saying: "It's the build hour is dead. We just haven't had the funeral yet." And that the same goes with modern day subscription services that are effectively just build hours in a subscription package, and fixed fee implementations as well. It's the same thing. It's just the build hour in a different package. And so we knew we had to look at our most successful customers and who were they? They were the customers that took their own initiative to learn the most about their software, period. They went above and beyond outside of what we could provide them at that time to find resources and educate themselves in the platform themselves. So we took our most successful customers and we said, let's create a model that replicates that every time. And so we just have consistently put out as much knowledge as we possibly can for free. We publish a how-to YouTube video every single day. I've got 6 months worth of videos in the backlog, and so our team is so driven about what can we give away for free now. And that's, that decision alone to, to sort of take off the chains, if you will, was the best decision this company's ever made.
You guys talk about, your team being so driven and motivated. Why do you think that is? What keeps you guys striving for more?
They aren't bogged down in the little details and the day-to-day and updating their customer on whether it's going to cost more money or not, or whether or not this change is going to impact them financially, or, oh, hey, I can't meet this week. It's going to have to be next week, or, I can't meet for the next 2 weeks because of the holidays. I mean, we literally have unburdened our staff. They no longer have to be tied to these, meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. Instead, they're working with our customers on the high value tasks, the actual problems and processes that they need to solve in their businesses. that are the whole reason they're switching platforms in the first place. So the more time we free up our folks to work with customers on that, the happier everybody is all around. It's awesome.
When you take, the time you spend on, pardon my French, but the BS, you take that time out of the equation, and then you have more
Exactly.
time to focus on what's important.
Exactly, because it's a lot of busy work, to
Mhm.
be frank with you. I mean, trying to keep track of what a customer has used and a timesheet and what they haven't used and what they've paid for and what they haven't. I mean, the immense amount of overhead, is
So many
involved in that.
spreadsheets too.
Oh my gosh. So Excel hell, as I call it.
I love a
And then
good spreadsheet, but that's too much.
Yeah,
then the always fun meeting where everybody reviews their timesheets.
exactly.
Those are so fun. So all this really comes down to how, the Bangert deployment system and how well that works for a customer. I mean, it's really exceedingly good for them. They not only do they get everything for a known price up front, but then they have daily access to our staff. They have 24/7 access to the vast majority of the materials they need to be successful. They get all their ongoing support, any custom report needs, and more often than not, our process is looked at with skepticism because it's so different than what they've ever been used to in the past. Sometimes it's a little hard for them to wrap their mind around it. So it's like, well, how do you do all that for that number? As Reid said, 70% less than a traditional implementation. Caroline, if you were going to buy a software system for me, the reason you would want to do that is that it's going to positively impact your company through efficiency, through better data, and all those things. Happier people, happier customers, and those things would drive your profitability. That's why you would want to buy tech from us.
Well, that's what
Well,
everyone's looking for when they purchase these types of softwares. That's, that's what they want.
exactly, except that the service side of this industry is still stuck in 1980. It's so backwards. It's so horribly backwards. And that's where we have come in and said, why, if we have such a modern product in Sage Intacct, it's fantastically modern, it's great. We have to match that with a service program that's equally modern.
Not just that, but making a sophisticated and modern solution like Sage Intacct available to more people. I mean, who wouldn't want that? When we were implementing our own technology, our team used and utilized everything that was available to us, effectively for free. And so why not make a model like that so it provides accessibility to more people? More people using the product makes the product better. And it makes the product more relevant in the marketplace too. So there's so many advantages of it that we could go on and on all day.
Honestly, we could. And, since we're on the topic of technology, I'd love to bring up Ask Richard.
Well, I mean, Ask Richard was named after my grandpa and Kurt's dad, and effectively, it's kind of the culmination of our next generation services. So, I like to call it Bangert Deployment 2.0 or 3.0. I think we're probably 3.0 now. But it's an all-encompassing platform. So our learning management system is in there, takes the customer step by step through how they get 0 to live on Sage Intacct. It has a planning room functionality, so you can say, hey, I'm going to start on December 1st or January 1st. When am I going to be live by if I have 1 hour a day to work on this? It's got team tracking capabilities, so you can track your team's progress throughout. So if you've got 10 or 12 or 15 people in deployment with us, you know where they're at all times. But the most important aspect of it is Ask Richard itself. So we've created a closed domain language model. So it's not like OpenAI or ChatGPT that references outside sources. It only references the data that we fed it, which is actually all of our content that we've ever created on Sage Intacct. So if a customer has a question, they can just type that question in and get an answer right there. And not only is it a how-to, but it's a how-to with context, and it's a how-to with visuals.
Yeah, that probably keeps the data a little bit more safe and secure, doesn't it, as well?
I mean, well, the biggest problem with generative chat and things like that is just the trust factor, right? Where are these sources coming from? Do I know this is the right answer, etc.? So when we only feed it, content that's been created by people who know the product backwards and front, you're getting a confident answer. And it's smart enough to know what it doesn't know too. It says, "Hey, I don't think I have an answer for this. You might try this out," or get in touch and sign up for a Q&A today.
Ask Richard. It's really the first in the world AI support tool for Sage Intacct. And so, we're back to, let's drive this kind of technology forward. Let's modernize these processes. Instead of putting in a support ticket and hopefully getting a call back in a couple of days or a week, you can get the answer right now. And we all expect that today. It's the kind of thing, I say we live in an app world, meaning I can go on my phone, I can download an app, and I can start using it immediately. Right? That's our expectation today. So while Sage Intacct and products like it are complex systems, they're not apps. They don't just download and you just run them. We have to bring the experience as close to that as we possibly can, because that is what we all expect right now. So Ask Richard is just one more step in that direction. And we've got more coming. We're not done yet. So we keep pushing and pushing and pushing to bring to a customer an expected experience, and better yet, a superb experience. They don't have to wait. We were talking to a company, a contractor here recently. They go, "Hey, with our existing system, if we can get a support call returned in 2 weeks, we're pretty happy."
2
Yeah.
weeks?
2 weeks.
Wow. That's
And I'm
crazy.
kind of like,
I would be
so
pretty
if you only
nervous
break
if that
one,
was me.
I'm kind of like, so it sounds like if you only break one leg, you're pretty happy, you know? So I said, why don't we redefine what happiness is? How about you go right now, you ask a question and you get a written answer. And so we gave him access, of course, to Ask Richard. And he's like, where have you been all my life? This is what we need. This is what we want. This is what we expect.
Yeah, so was Ask Richard, was it born from, a need from the industry or a need from your customers, or, where did this idea originate from?
I mean, we're always thinking about user experience overall. So, 6 years ago when I came into this company, I would have never imagined we'd have our public verified ratings and reviews on our homepage, but we do, and we have 126 and counting. So, it started from a place of we have to improve our customer experience. And now today it is how do we make the best possible customer experience that we can. And so Ask Richard, that's what that idea was born from, is this idea that there should be this seamless place that guides a customer from A to Z, that they can track their progress. They can know exactly where they're at and exactly where they're headed. They know exactly the requirements of them this week, next week, the following week. And so there's never a question of how in the heck are we going to do this? Because the old way and the old model that I said is dead, you're constantly questioning that. There's a project plan, it's pretty rough. If there's an update, it's pretty vague. And so you're always constantly wondering, am I really going to hit that date that I set that I wanted to be live by?
I know that well.
Yeah. We've used all the tools that people use today. We've used project management systems and spreadsheets and all that to try to track the progress. They always fall down. They're never updated. They're usually way too complex. Nobody understands them. The customer doesn't participate. And then the customer starts throwing things in that they go, oh, we need this and we need that. And the other thing, the consultant makes decisions that take it totally off track. And so no one knows where they're at in reality. We have people that want to hire project managers for these things, which, you know, in the old way of doing things, I'd say, yeah, it might be a good idea because you need somebody to track it. It's expensive. But with Ask Richard, with the deployment system and all that, we're like, no, 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 no. That's all done in the system. The project management's built into the thing. And it's very purposeful, very intentional because we know certain things. We know there is a process that will guarantee success. And that's what deployment is. And we also know that if we're departing from that, your chances of success start dropping. And so if you think about it in the old way of doing things, whether it's a metered subscription, whether it's hourly billing, whatever it is, you generally get one consultant assigned to your account, maybe two, maybe there's a small team, but one primary. If I have 15 of those primary consultants and I have 15 customers, I guarantee you've got 15 different ways of implementing the software. Guaranteed, 100%. You can go as a company say, hey, we're all going to do it this way. No one's going to do it because they're going to do it their way. So when you take it from individual focus and put it on team focus, and we come to a consensus on what is the way, and then we build that into a system, now we can gain 98% success. So in the ERP implementation world, the record is dismal. Between 55 and 75% of ERP implementations fail. Think about that. Fail.
That's a lot to fail.
Yeah, and failure can mean out and out, it just did not work, or at best, it simply didn't meet our expectations. But the customer puts it in the fail category, 55 to 75%, depending on your data source. We turned that around to a 98% success rate. That's dramatically different. And so, yes, dramatically different. But the way we got there was leverage technology, teamwork, 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 and we give a ton of stuff away for free.
The stage that this industry is going into right now is so fascinating. And it really seems like, all these new technologies that are going to be brought in are going to make things more efficient, more accurate, and hopefully a little bit easier on everyone using them. Our jobs and our lives are going to be a little easier. So it's going to be a very interesting time in the construction industry right now.
No doubt. It's very exciting. And because I've been around this for so long, the reality is in the financial management space, there's really been no real true innovation since the early 1990s. And because there's been no technological event, I should say, that has happened to make it different. So back in the 90s, it was the introduction of Microsoft Windows, for crying out loud. We went from a green screen to, a graphical user interface. That was a major technological change, and it rapidly transformed over the next 5 to 10 years what everybody was using in their companies. So now we have Sage Intacct that's arrived on the scene here, 3 years ago, and it is as much different from green screen to Windows as now Windows PC based software to pure cloud based software. So it's super exciting because we see the potential for a huge jump in productivity, better information, timely information, all of that. And so that's why we came and looked at it and said, what's the biggest, preventer, if you will, of people moving into a new technological platform? And that is the pain of implementation. I mean, very few people have done an implementation that would say, man, I loved it. Wow, could we do, too bad it's over. It's so fun. I mean, never, it just doesn't happen. You can go look at our reviews on people that have done deployment. and they actually say, we really enjoyed it. Again, I've never heard that in 40 years. I've never heard that before, but it's because we've focused so heavily on that customer experience and the fact that we want and need them to be successful, period. So makes a big difference.
It really does. I have one kind of hard but really fun question for you guys. What is the best piece of advice that you have ever received? That's probably the toughest question I'm going to ask you guys today.
So probably just doing the right thing. Honestly, is probably the best advice I've ever given. I mean, it's what we live through. It's a core belief of everybody here that works here, that we just simply do the right thing. Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in, you know, making a ton of money, or it's how do I describe it? Just uh, trying to get ahead at all costs. And for us, we've always done the right thing. And at least the 6 years that I've been here, doing the right thing has absolutely paid off in the long term. Had we taken shortcuts, I don't know where we'd be at today. We just focused on the bottom dollar, don't know where we'd be at today. Had we just focused on, a benefit to our company, I don't know where we'd be at today. So I think doing the right thing is probably the biggest thing, that a piece of advice I've ever received.
Me, my parents and grandparents weren't much in the way of delivering verbal advice, but they were fantastic at demonstrating. So, I think that what what I've learned from that is there's a value in being generous. There's also a value in taking care of other people, and we have a responsibility to do that. So further, from my dad, he raised me to be an independent person, an independent thinker, to be self-reliant, and to use my own head. And he demonstrated that himself. He was an extremely bright individual. So, a lot of these things that we're doing today were generated inside this company. We didn't have somebody walk over and say, "Hey, you guys, you should develop a deployment system, or you should develop an AI support tool for Sage Intacct." Those are things that came from inside this company, because have we adhere very closely to that philosophy of independent thought, of generosity. It's why we have 1,300 videos for free on YouTube that are actually real training videos, totally free of charge, of course. So there's a generous aspect to it, and then there's we want to care about others. When I looked around nearly 3 years ago now and said, no one here is having fun. Our people are stressed out, they're burnt out, and you know I don't want to be. This is not the kind of company I want to run. It needs to change. So when we start looking at it, going, how do we make this a place where people look forward to coming to work at, where they enjoy coming into work, where they enjoy the people that they work with? All that kind of thing didn't come from a piece of advice. It came from demonstrations from my grandparents and parents to me over time.
It's always, lead by example.
Yes.
So awesome. And then, any of our viewers, any of our watchers, if they're interested in learning more about Bangert, learning more about you guys, or, hopefully, yeah, becoming your customers, how can they reach out to you guys? How can they find you?
Best way is to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's Bangert Inc. at Bangert Inc. That has all of the information and links to other things. So, the best way to learn about what we're doing and Ask Richard is go to our YouTube channel. We've got a video right there that shows what Ask Richard is and what it's all about, how it works. And then you can take a deeper dive from there.
Yeah. We'll definitely make sure to link all of those below for everyone. Is there anything else you guys want to say? Any last remarks? Anything?
Not
No?
for me. I really appreciate the time today,
Yeah.
Caroline.
Awesome. Yeah,
It's
no.
been a
Thank you
pleasure.
guys so much for coming on. It really is truly a pleasure to have you guys here. And we know that everything you're doing is so important and so amazing. So I'm truly honored to have you guys.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome. We'll catch you guys next time on the next episode of CO Pod.